Alpha King joins Omega at the Midsummer Rite as the ancestral flame bends toward her breath. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. Olivia Stone had never been a stranger to ridicule. Her life as an Omega, weaker than others of her kind, was filled with rejection and whispers. Though she held a gentle heart, the world around her had hardened into something cold, unyielding. She had always been the one left behind, the one overlooked. But today was different. Today, the Midsummer Rite was upon them. It was the one time each year when all of the neighboring packs came together to honor their ancestors, hoping for blessings in the year to come. Olivia stood in the shadows, clutching the edge of her cloak as the others, the stronger Omegas, gathered around the sacred fire. But she, the one deemed weak, had been given no special role in the ceremony. The flames flickered and danced, casting an ethereal glow over the ancient stones where the elders stood. The fire was said to be the connection to their ancestors, and each breath taken during the rite was meant to honor those that had come before. Olivia's eyes shifted toward the flickering flames, her breath coming in shallow gasps. As the flames flickered higher, the air around her began to shift. It felt like something was calling her, an unspoken connection that made her heart race. She reached out, unconsciously stepping closer to the flame. The wind picked up, swirling around her, and for the briefest moment, the fire shifted, as if recognizing her presence. Olivia gasped. Was this just a trick of the wind? Or was something more happening? Before she could process what was occurring, a deep voice broke through the night. That's enough. All eyes turned toward the towering figure who had just entered the clearing, his presence overwhelming the entire space. The Alpha King, Aiden Blackwood, walked toward the gathering. His dark cloak billowed behind him, and his silver eyes scanned the crowd. The whispers started immediately. Aiden Blackwood, the Alpha King, who hadn't attended a Midsummer Rite in years, had just arrived. The crowd parted as he made his way toward Olivia. She felt a shiver run down her spine, a mixture of fear and something else she couldn't quite name. His gaze locked with hers, and in that instant, it felt as though the world around her disappeared. Olivia Stone, he spoke her name like a command. You've been chosen. The fire flared, bending toward her, and in that moment, she realized this was no coincidence. She wasn't just an onlooker. She was part of something much bigger than she had ever imagined. The ancestral flame had recognized her, and with it, a bond had been formed. Olivia stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest. The king had chosen her. The world seemed to shift in that single moment, and everything she had known about her life, her destiny, was about to change. As the Alpha King stood before her, Olivia's heart raced in her chest. Aiden Blackwood, the legendary Alpha King, was no longer just a distant figure in the stories told around the fire. He was right there, standing before her with eyes that seemed to pierce into her very soul. The crowd around them had fallen silent, all eyes locked on the two of them, waiting to see what would happen next. Olivia's hands trembled slightly as she fought to keep her composure. She was just an Omega, a girl who had never been chosen, never been seen. Yet, here she was, the center of attention, with the most powerful man in the kingdom looking at her like he had just discovered something extraordinary. Aiden's silver eyes glimmered in the firelight, his expression unreadable. He took a step closer, his presence overwhelming, and Olivia felt her breath catch in her throat. She had always felt small in the presence of others, but standing before him, she felt as though she were no longer invisible. She was no longer the quiet, overlooked girl, she was something more. You've been chosen, Aiden repeated, his voice low and commanding. Olivia swallowed hard, trying to find her voice. Chosen, she whispered, unsure if she had heard him correctly. The wind picked up again, swirling around them, as if nature itself had responded to his words. Aiden nodded, his gaze unwavering. The ancestral flame has chosen you. The bond has already been made. Olivia's mind raced. The ancestral flame was a sacred fire that had guided her people for centuries, and it was said to choose only the most deserving among them. For the flame to bend toward her, of all people, felt like a dream. Or perhaps, a nightmare. She had always felt out of place, never quite fitting in with the rest of her pack. She was too weak, too unremarkable. And now, the flame had chosen her? She glanced around, seeking answers in the faces of the others, but the elders had stepped back, their faces pale with awe. It was clear that they had not expected this. No one had. Aiden, however, seemed completely unshaken by the event. "What does this mean?" Olivia asked, her voice trembling slightly despite her best efforts to remain calm. Aiden's expression softened for a brief moment, a flicker of something, perhaps understanding, passing through his eyes. "It means that you and I are bound by fate," he said simply. Olivia's heart skipped a beat at the weight of his words. "But I'm just an Omega," she protested, her voice barely a whisper. "I have no power, no strength. I don't deserve this." Aiden stepped closer, his presence almost magnetic, and placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "You are more than you realize," he said, his voice warm and reassuring. "The flame chose you for a reason. And I have no doubt that you will rise to the challenge." His words were like a balm to her soul, soothing the fears that had plagued her for so long. But there was still one question that lingered in the back of her mind. "And you?" she asked quietly. "What do you want from me?" Aiden's gaze softened as he regarded her, and for the first time since his arrival, he seemed almost vulnerable. "What I want is simple," he said, his voice steady. "I want you to stand by my side. Together, we will change the future of our people." Olivia's mind reeled. The future of their people? Was he truly asking her to become his mate, to rule by his side? She had never imagined a life like that for herself. But in that moment, as she looked into Aiden's eyes, she felt something stir within her, a sense of destiny she had never known before. Maybe this was the path she was meant to walk. Maybe this was the life she was meant to lead. Slowly, almost without thinking, Olivia nodded. "I'll stand by your side," she said, her voice steady and sure. Aiden smiled, a look of satisfaction and relief washing over his face. He had chosen her, and now she had chosen him. Their destinies were intertwined, and together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The days that followed the Midsummer Rite were a blur for Olivia. Her world had shifted, her life turned upside down, and she had barely time to grasp the enormity of what had happened. Alpha King Aiden Blackwood, the mighty ruler of the Northern Territories, had chosen her an Omega, someone she had always believed would remain invisible. They had spoken little after the ceremony, but his words echoed in her mind constantly. "Together, we will change the future of our people." She found herself standing at the edge of the world she had known, gazing into the unknown. Aiden's presence lingered, even in his absence. He had promised that she would stand by his side, that together they would face whatever the future held. The idea of being at his side, of ruling alongside him, seemed both impossible and inevitable. Olivia had spent her whole life being told she was weak, unworthy of attention, yet here she was, being asked to share in the most powerful position in their world. But even as the excitement and fear coursed through her, there was a sense of peace she had never known before. Aiden was different from any man she had ever met. His gaze, always intense, never wavered when it locked on her. His presence, though overwhelming, brought with it a strange sense of security. She had not fully understood what had drawn him to her, but she could no longer deny the connection they shared. It was something deep, primal, something beyond words. Days turned into weeks, and still, Aiden did not come to her directly, but Olivia could feel him watching, waiting, perhaps for her to find the courage to step into this new life. One evening, as the sun began to set and the orange light of dusk bathed the land in warmth, Olivia found herself standing on the balcony of her quarters in the palace. The sprawling kingdom lay before her, with the distant mountains casting long shadows over the vast forest below. A soft breeze stirred her hair, and she closed her eyes, breathing in the fresh air. Her life had always been bound to the small village, to the limited horizon that had defined her existence. Now, it felt as though the whole world had opened up to her. She was no longer just an Omega. she was more. And yet, doubt still lingered at the back of her mind. What did it mean to be with the Alpha King? What kind of woman would she have to become to stand beside him, to rule with him? She had spent so many years hiding from her own potential, afraid of what might be asked of her, afraid of what she might have to become. But something inside her stirred, something strong and unwavering. She could do this. She could stand by Aiden, face whatever challenges lay ahead. She had to. As she stood lost in thought, a quiet voice broke through her reverie. Olivia. She turned, and there he was. Aiden Blackwood, standing in the doorway, his silver eyes fixed on her with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. He was still dressed in the regal attire of his position, yet there was a vulnerability to him now, a softness that had not been there before. "The night is still young," he said, his voice low. "Shall we walk together?" Olivia hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to say, but then, without thinking, she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. Aiden's face softened, and he stepped closer, his presence filling the space between them. He reached out, his hand brushing hers gently. It was a simple gesture, but it felt like the beginning of something monumental. They walked together through the gardens, the moon casting a silvery glow over the flowers and the winding paths. Aiden did not speak for a long time, but Olivia could feel the tension between them, the unspoken understanding of what they both were beginning to realize. Their fates were tied together, as the flame had already shown them. As they reached the edge of the garden, Aiden stopped, turning to face her. "You are not the woman you were," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "You are destined for more than you realize." Olivia looked into his eyes, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over her. She knew then that she was ready. She was ready to step into the unknown, ready to embrace the life that awaited her by his side. The next few weeks passed in a haze of uncertainty and discovery for Olivia. As she settled into the palace and began her training under the watchful eyes of the kingdom's elders, her mind remained fixed on the conversation she had shared with Aiden. The walk through the garden, the promise of something greater, lingered in her thoughts. Aiden had made it clear that she was no longer the same woman she once was. But what did that truly mean for her future? For the future of their people? Olivia still struggled with the weight of it all. She had always been an Omega, living in the shadows of the more powerful members of her pack. But now, she was being prepared to step into a world of power and responsibility. The Alpha King's world. It was a realm filled with ancient traditions, strict laws, and a constant balance of strength. Yet, it was also a world where destiny seemed to bind people together in ways they couldn't quite comprehend. Olivia had been chosen. But why her? What made her different from the others? She had so many questions, but Aiden's silence was deafening. He had given her space, allowing her time to adjust. Yet, Olivia could feel his presence behind every decision, every action. He was always there, watching from a distance, waiting for her to step forward on her own. One morning, as the sun rose high in the sky, casting its golden rays over the kingdom, Olivia found herself standing alone on the balcony of her room, gazing out at the sprawling lands below. The view was breathtaking: rolling hills, dense forests, and distant mountains that stretched as far as the eye could see. It was a world of beauty, but it was also a world filled with dangers, both seen and unseen. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. She turned to find Aiden standing at the door, his tall frame casting a long shadow in the dim light of the morning. His silver eyes met hers, and for a moment, they simply stood in silence. There was something different about him today. His usual confident demeanor seemed to have softened, and his gaze was less guarded than usual. Olivia felt her heart race as he stepped closer, closing the distance between them. "Olivia," he said softly, his voice a mixture of authority and something deeper, something more personal. "It's time." Olivia's brow furrowed in confusion. "Time for what?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Aiden's lips curved into a faint smile, and he took a step closer. "Time to begin," he replied. "Time to understand what it means to be more than just an Omega. To be a leader." His words sent a chill through Olivia's body. A leader? Her? The idea seemed impossible. She had spent her entire life being told she was weak, unworthy of anything more than the most menial tasks. And now, Aiden was asking her to lead? I don't know if I'm ready, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Aiden reached out, his hand brushing her arm gently. You are ready, he said, his voice filled with conviction. More than you realize. Olivia met his gaze, searching for any sign of doubt, but found none. She could feel the weight of his belief in her, and for the first time, she began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, he was right. Maybe she could be more. What do I need to do, she asked, her voice steady now, no longer filled with uncertainty. Aiden's eyes softened, and he took a deep breath. You will learn what it means to rule, to protect our people, and to stand beside me as an equal, he said, his voice full of pride. Together, we will forge a new path for the future. Olivia nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. There was no turning back now. She had made her choice. And whatever came next, she would face it with him by her side. The following days were a whirlwind of lessons, practice, and change. Olivia spent her mornings in the royal library, studying ancient texts and laws that had governed their kingdom for centuries. The weight of her new position, the responsibility that Aiden had spoken of, was becoming increasingly real. Aiden was always there, watching over her, guiding her, but never forcing her into anything she wasn't ready for. She could feel his presence in every corner of the palace, his watchful eyes constantly on her. Yet, he remained distant. In a way, as if giving her space to grow into this new role. His trust in her was clear, but the pressure to live up to that trust was overwhelming at times. One afternoon, as Olivia sat alone in the courtyard, reading through a particularly difficult text on diplomacy, she heard footsteps approaching. She looked up, her heart skipping a beat when she saw Aiden walking toward her. His usual confident demeanor was softened by a small smile, something she had come to recognize as his rare form of warmth. You're making progress, he said, his voice smooth and reassuring. Olivia closed the book in front of her, standing to face him. I'm trying, she replied. But it's a lot to take in. Aiden nodded, his gaze thoughtful. I know. And you're doing well. I'm proud of you. The words struck Olivia more deeply than she expected. She had never heard praise like that before, especially not from someone like Aiden. Her entire life had been filled with doubt, self-criticism, and the belief that she was always falling short. But now, here was Aiden, the Alpha King, telling her he was proud of her. It felt like a turning point, a sign that she was on the right path. There's more to leadership than knowledge, Aiden continued, his eyes locking with hers. It's about understanding, empathy, and knowing when to act. These are things you already possess, Olivia. You've been leading your people, even if you didn't realize it. His words were a balm to her insecurities, easing some of the doubt that had plagued her since the moment she was chosen. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling of being unprepared. But what if I fail, she asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. What if I'm not what you expect me to be? Aiden took a step closer, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. You will never fail me, he said firmly. You are already more than enough. The sincerity in his voice made Olivia's heart race. She had never been made to feel like this before, like she was more than just an Omega, more than just someone who was seen as weak. He saw her potential, and that belief in her was starting to light a fire inside her that she had long since buried. As the days went by, Olivia began to grow into her role. She worked tirelessly, learning everything she could about ruling, about protecting their people, and about what it meant to be an equal to Aiden. She still had doubts, still questioned her ability to fulfill her new responsibilities, but with each passing day, she became more confident. And with each moment she spent by Aiden's side, she understood a little more about why she had been chosen. They were a team, a partnership. Aiden had his strength, his power, but it was her empathy, her kindness, that would balance him. She wasn't just a symbol of strength, she was a force in her own right. Aiden never pressured her, never made her feel as though she had to prove herself. He was patient, supportive, and always there when she needed him. And Olivia realized, with startling clarity, that this was what leadership truly was. It was about understanding, about forging connections that went beyond the throne and the title. It was about being there for each other, no matter the obstacles that lay ahead. And together, they would face them all. As Olivia continued her training, the pressure of her new life weighed heavily on her. She had come so far from the girl who once cowered in the shadows, but now, every step she took felt like it was leading her toward an unknown future. She had been chosen by the ancestral flame, but what did that really mean for her? What was her place in this world that seemed so grand and powerful, yet so foreign to her? Every day brought new lessons, new expectations. She was learning how to govern, how to listen, and how to make decisions that affected not just herself, but the entire kingdom. But it wasn't just the political matters that weighed on her mind. Aiden's presence, his quiet support, his unwavering faith in her, those were the things that consumed her thoughts when she least expected it. She had grown used to his presence at her side, whether during meetings or in the quiet moments after the day's duties were over. And in those moments, when he spoke to her, she felt the walls she had built around herself begin to crumble, piece by piece. One evening, as the sun began to set and the warm glow of twilight filled the room, Aiden approached her once more. Olivia sat by the window, gazing out at the land that now felt like home, though she still struggled to truly claim it as such. Aiden stood in the doorway, watching her for a moment before he stepped forward. His gaze was intense, as it always was, but there was something softer in it today, something that made her heart flutter with uncertainty. "Olivia," he said, his voice low but steady, "I've been watching you. You've grown stronger with each passing day. But there is still much for you to learn. I know it's not easy." Olivia turned to face him, meeting his gaze. "It's not," she admitted softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I want to learn. I want to be what this kingdom needs me to be." Aiden's eyes softened, and he took a step closer to her. "You are already everything this kingdom needs, Olivia," he said. His words sent a warmth through her chest, a warmth she hadn't realized she had been longing for. "You've always had the strength, the wisdom. You just needed to believe in yourself." Olivia swallowed hard, her emotions threatening to overwhelm her. It was the first time he had spoken to her like this, with such raw honesty, and it made her realize just how deeply he had come to understand her. "I don't know if I can be the leader you want me to be," she confessed, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm still just me." Aiden reached out, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. His touch was warm, grounding her in the moment. "You are exactly who you need to be," he said, his voice firm yet kind. "And I am here to help you, every step of the way." Olivia's heart fluttered in her chest at his words. She had never felt so seen, so understood. It was as though, in that moment, the weight of all her fears and doubts lifted, if only for a moment. She had always felt like she was less than what the world expected her to be. But now, with Aiden standing by her side, she was beginning to see that perhaps she was more than she had ever realized. As the night stretched on, Olivia and Aiden continued to talk, their conversation flowing effortlessly. For the first time since she had come to the palace, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. The future still seemed uncertain, but she no longer felt alone in it. She had Aiden, and together, they would face whatever challenges awaited them. As she stood beside him, looking out at the moonlit landscape, Olivia finally allowed herself to believe that perhaps, just perhaps, she was meant for this. Meant to rule, to protect, and to stand with Aiden as his equal. And in that moment, she knew she had made the right choice. She was ready. The days turned into weeks, and Olivia's transformation was undeniable. She no longer stood on the sidelines, unsure of herself. Each day, she grew more confident, more sure of her place beside Aiden. The lessons she had begun to learn were no longer a burden, they were a path leading her to something greater. The kingdom was vast, its needs complex, but with Aiden guiding her, she was beginning to understand what it truly meant to lead. Aiden remained a constant presence in her life, and though their bond was growing stronger, there were still moments of quiet between them. They spent long hours together, discussing strategies, learning from one another, but there were still unspoken things hanging in the air. Olivia couldn't help but feel that Aiden was holding something back. She caught glimpses of a past he rarely spoke of, a life filled with battles, pain, and loss. One evening, as the sky darkened and the moon hung low over the kingdom, Olivia found herself alone in the library. She had asked Aiden to give her some time to study, to prepare for the challenges ahead. But as she sat at the large wooden table, the weight of her thoughts pressed heavily on her chest. She had come so far, but she still didn't feel completely ready. A knock at the door broke her reverie, and she looked up to find Aiden standing in the doorway. His eyes met hers, and for a moment, they simply stared at one another in silence. "I didn't mean to disturb you," he said softly, his voice almost hesitant. Olivia stood up quickly, a smile playing at her lips. "You're not disturbing me at all. I was just thinking." Aiden raised an eyebrow, his expression curious. "Thinking about what?" Olivia hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to express the swirling emotions inside her. "I'm thinking about the future. About all the things we have to face together." Aiden nodded, stepping into the room. "I understand," he said. "The weight of it all can be overwhelming." Olivia frowned, her heart tightening. "But you never seem overwhelmed," she said. "You always have everything under control. I don't know how you do it." Aiden's eyes softened as he stepped closer to her. "I may appear calm on the outside, Olivia, but I carry my own burdens." "We all do." He paused for a moment, as if contemplating his next words carefully. "I've had to make difficult choices that have cost me dearly." Olivia felt a chill run through her at his words. She had sensed that there was more to Aiden than the powerful alpha king he portrayed, but hearing it from him, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes, made her heart ache for him. "I know you carry the weight of your past," she said quietly. "But you don't have to carry it alone. I'm here with you, Aiden. Always." Aiden looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, a small smile tugged at the corners of his lips. "I'm glad you're here, Olivia. You don't know how much that means to me." Olivia stepped forward, her hand reaching out to gently touch his arm. The connection between them was undeniable, a bond that had only deepened since that first moment at the Midsummer Rite. "We're in this together," she whispered. "No matter what happens, we face it together." Aiden looked down at her hand, then back up at her face, his silver eyes intense and unwavering. "Together," he agreed. In that moment, Olivia knew that no matter what trials lay ahead, she was ready. She was no longer the frightened girl she once was. She was a leader, standing beside the man who would become her partner, her equal. And with Aiden by her side, she knew they could face anything. The future, once uncertain and frightening, now felt full of possibility. Together, they would create a legacy that would change the kingdom forever. As the days passed, Olivia felt more and more at ease in her role. The challenges of ruling, of learning what it truly meant to lead, were no longer as daunting. With Aiden's guidance, she had come to understand the intricacies of the kingdom, the delicate balance that kept it functioning. She had learned to listen to the needs of the people, to make decisions that would secure their future, and to trust her instincts. There were still moments of doubt, still times when she questioned whether she was truly ready for all of this. But those moments grew fewer as her confidence grew. And Aiden was always there, supporting her, showing her that she had the strength within herself to succeed. It was a partnership, one built on mutual respect and understanding. They were no longer two separate individuals, they were becoming something greater together. One evening, after a long day of meetings and strategy discussions, Olivia found herself standing on the balcony once again. The sun had just set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, and the cool night air brushed against her skin. She closed her eyes, taking in a deep breath. It was moments like this, when everything was quiet, that she found peace. A soft rustling behind her made her turn, and there stood Aiden, his silver eyes fixed on her. "I thought I'd find you here," he said with a small smile. Olivia smiled back, though it was tinged with a hint of weariness. "I needed some time to think," she said, stepping closer to him. "It's been a lot lately, hasn't it?" Aiden nodded, his expression serious but kind. "It has. But you've done more than just keep up, Olivia. You've excelled." His words were simple, but the weight behind them carried so much meaning. Olivia had worked hard to get to this point, but hearing Aiden's praise still had the power to make her heart swell. I couldn't have done it without you, she admitted softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Aiden reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. And you won't have to, he said, his voice steady and sure. I'll always be here, right by your side. We're in this together. For a moment, they stood in silence, simply enjoying the peaceful night around them. Olivia felt the weight of his words settle deep within her. They were a team, a force to be reckoned with. The future was still uncertain, but with Aiden by her side, Olivia knew that they could face anything that came their way. And for the first time in a long while, she felt a deep sense of belonging. This was her life now. This was where she was meant to be. Are you ready? Aiden's voice broke through her thoughts, and she turned to look at him. His gaze was steady, unwavering. Olivia took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the responsibility, but also the strength that had grown within her. Yes, she said, her voice full of conviction. I'm ready. Aiden's smile was warm, full of pride and admiration. Then let's face whatever comes next, together. And in that moment, Olivia knew, without a doubt, that she was no longer just an Omega. She was a leader. She was his equal. Together, they would face the future, and nothing would stop them. The days that followed were filled with new challenges and discoveries. Olivia and Aiden's bond continued to deepen as they worked side by side, learning how to rule together. The kingdom had grown used to seeing them together, and it was clear to everyone that they were a powerful team, one that could bring about change. Despite the growing sense of unity between them, Olivia sometimes found herself lost in thought. There were still moments when doubt crept in, moments when she questioned whether she was truly worthy of her new role. Yet, every time those doubts surfaced, Aiden was there, steady and unwavering, offering her guidance and support. They had faced their challenges, but it felt as if the hardest trials were yet to come. One evening, after a particularly long day of meetings, Aiden invited Olivia to join him for a walk in the royal gardens. The sun had just set, casting a soft golden glow over the flowers and the paths that stretched out before them. Olivia, grateful for a moment of peace, agreed without hesitation. As they strolled through the quiet garden, the weight of the day's events seemed to lift, replaced by the serenity of the moment. Aiden's presence was comforting, and Olivia found herself more at ease than she had been in a long while. I've been thinking, Olivia said, breaking the silence between them. Aiden turned to look at her, his silver eyes meeting hers with an expression of curiosity. About what? About us, Olivia replied, her voice quiet. About everything we're facing together. Aiden smiled, his gaze softening. I know it hasn't been easy, he said, his voice filled with understanding. But we're doing it, Olivia. Every day, we're building something stronger. Something that will last. Olivia nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had never imagined her life would take such a turn. She had always been the Omega, the one overlooked, the one left behind. But now, she was standing beside the Alpha King, learning what it meant to rule, to lead, and to be loved. I never thought I'd be here, Olivia said softly. Never thought I'd be the one standing by your side, helping lead our people. And yet, here you are, Aiden replied with a smile. You were always meant for this, Olivia. You just had to realize it yourself. The sincerity in his voice made Olivia's heart race. She had always struggled with her worth, always felt as though she didn't belong in the world of power and politics. But with Aiden by her side, she was beginning to see herself in a new light. She was not just an Omega. She was more. I still have so much to learn, Olivia admitted, her voice filled with uncertainty. But I'm not afraid anymore. Not with you here. Aiden's eyes softened, and he took her hand in his. You don't need to be afraid, he said gently. We're in this together. We'll face whatever comes, side by side. Olivia squeezed his hand, feeling the truth of his words settle deep within her. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen, truly understood. She was not alone in this journey. Together, they would face whatever challenges the future held. As they continued to walk through the garden, the path ahead seemed clearer. The uncertainty that had once gripped Olivia began to fade, replaced by a newfound strength. She was ready for whatever came next, knowing that she and Aiden would face it together, as equals, as partners. The future was theirs to shape, and Olivia was ready to embrace it with all her heart.